break, I'll be joined by an environmental specialist to help us understand what's happening and what we must do differently. So floods aren't uncommon during the Nigerian rainy season, which lasts from April until October. Recall that last year, Nigeria experienced flooding from heavy rain, which caused deaths and indeed drove people from their homes. There was also severe flooding in 2022, when more than 600 people died and 1.3 million were displaced. To explore the environmental and systemic factors contributing to the flooding and discuss sustainable solutions, let's bring in environmentalist Desmond Majekodunmi. Mr. Majekodunmi, I'm sure you're tired of invites like this when people die. Must really be a tiring and sad experience for you as well, especially if you follow closely these developments. But walk us through how climate change is influencing the frequency and severity of flooding in regions like Mokwa. Or is there something else we're not paying attention to?
Is affecting it. Well, as your hardy correspondent said, this is unprecedented, this type of rainfall in that location. Unprecedented. Never happened before. Definitely, it wasn't expected by the residents there. However, it is the most classic symptom of climate change, because climate change is causing global warming. That's a manifestation of it. And when you heat water, you get more evaporation. Remember that 2/3 of our planet is water. In that location, you have rivers, you have streams, you have lakes. There's water. And with this evaporation, obviously you're going to have heavier rain falling. And this is exactly what's happening. It's classified by the United Nations Secretary General as, he said, it's no longer rainfall. He said it's rain bomb, where you have a vast amount of rain falling in a short period of time in a specific location. This will overwhelm just about anything that you have in place, whether it's nature's natural evacuation systems of mangrove areas or wetland areas, or the streams going into the rivers, into the lakes, or man's development of drainage channels. This type of heavy rain bomb, as they're now calling it, will overwhelm just about anything that you have in place. Classic symptom of climate change. And it's not just us in Mokwa, it's not just us in Nigeria, not just us in Africa. It's a global problem, a global issue. In fact, in Valencia, Spain, a while back, they had 1.5 years rain fell in 8 hours. It just overwhelmed everything. So we need to really, really brace up for this.
I hear you. Mr. Majekodunmi, if there's nothing we can do about this development, if we don't have the infrastructure to contain it, but there's the science of forecast and how we also respond when tragedy like this occur. What role do early warning systems, for instance, play in disaster preparedness, and how effective are they in Nigeria?
Yeah, excellent question and observation. And in fairness to the NIMET, that is our meteorological organization, they did classify, they said that this particular area is going to be vulnerable to flooding. They've seen it, and I'm quite impressed with NIMET. They seem to have good equipment, and they're utilizing this equipment effectively. However, the big question now is, having given the prediction and the warning, did the necessary authorities, did the agencies responsible for doing something very, very quickly about this warning. Did they do the right thing? Or did they do anything at all? This is the question that has to be asked. And it's a very, very serious matter because having not done the right thing, we're now seeing the horrendous tragedy that has happened, the awful, awful thing that has happened to hundreds of people there, not just the ones that passed on, but the families, the bereaved families of those, and also the livelihoods of thousands of people, washed away totally, their homes totally gone. So, did we adhere fast enough? Did we react fast enough to the warning? No. It's a big no, and that's a huge indictment. But the bigger warning is that more will come, and we've got to do the right thing.
I mean, 5 days after the incident, the victims still do not have shelter. A reporter mentioned that NEMA brought some relief materials and took them back. Those who visited the governor in the state capital, and just a few of them have been to Mokwa itself. And it tells, you know, it speaks about response and how apt and adequate and comprehensive our response mechanism is in a story that is so heartbroken and heart-wrenching. But how can communities be better educated and involved in flood prevention and response strategies?
Yes. Well, there's several activities that need to take place. And one of them is, you know, basic sensitization. Get down to the grassroots and use this as a warning. Use this as an example that this is what can happen in other communities. Look at the list of areas that NIMET has predicted that it will happen, and activate a process that will go there and talk to the people. And this is where the traditional rulers, the traditional leaders, if they want to justify their position as a leader, this is something that they need to drive. They need to go and communicate to the grassroots people that they are leading, that look, oh, this thing can happen. We've been told. They'll show them some pictures, or even if it's possible, some video of what happened in Mokwa, and use it as an example. That, oh, well, what we now need to do is get very, very ready. If we're in those vulnerable areas, we need to move. I know it's not easy to persuade people to move from their homes, but in certain cases, it's very, very obvious that there are floodplain areas. There are places where if there's even just some moderately heavy rain, it can get flooded. Those ones, it's a bit easier. In this kind of instance, it's very, very difficult. But there needs to be a system in place so that immediately after the tragedy, after the flood, the system will activate. Is it helicopters that are required? The helicopters will come in with emergency aid and carry people out of the bad areas. They'll find locations where they can set up the rescue tents. Medical supplies will come in, food will come in. If other countries do this, and we, as the giant of Africa, we're not doing it? No. I'm sure that with the active responses we're seeing from the top echelons of government, that this will not happen again. By this time, the Air Force and even the military should be involved in helping our people. These are Nigerians. So in future, we have to be very, very sure that we do the right thing.
Because it mirrors the kind of value we place on our people. But let's talk about what must be done to mitigate future flooding risks. Are there sustainable solutions? Are there successful models or strategies from other regions that Nigeria could adopt?
Well, one of the things that we need to do is ensure that the natural systems, because nature is a wonderful, wonderful entity. She is so balanced and she works so harmoniously within herself. And as we alluded to earlier, there are natural systems, the streams and the rivers. They have the ability to evacuate a lot of water. But what has happened is that we have damaged that ability by allowing erosion to bring in extra silt, extra sand, and that raises the bed of those streams and rivers. And why is that erosion happening? Because of massive deforestation, massive removal of vegetation matter. Because the forests, the trees, the vegetation, apart from supplying so many of our other needs, they have the very, very good ability to stabilize the soil with their root zone. The little roots, the bigger roots, they're all intertwined in the ground, and it's holding the soil together. But when you clear too much of this, you now do not have anything holding the soil, and you get this erosion. So the rivers and streams, they can't do their job effectively. So they need to be dredged and evacuate that sand. They'll be far more effective. That's one of the main things that we need to do.
We must, a good place to leave it. Mr. Desmond Majekodunmi is chairman of the Lagos Urban Furniture and Animal Care Initiative, a non-governmental organization committed to the preservation of natural resources and the environment. Thank you so much for talking to us on the show today.
Thank you.